Alright everybody, welcome back to another video. So I hope you all enjoyed your Easter break. It's important to go touch the grass. I certainly did. Spend some time with your friends, family, go to the gym, get some fresh air, whatever it is you need to do to live life and experience everything there is to experience out here. It's never important just to chronically work yourself to death on trivial things that ultimately don't really matter. That being said, I must have stayed up till about 2 a.m. last night playing Battlefield 4. Now, why would I do that? I honestly had to pull myself off the game because I was having so much fun. And that's ultimately what I wanted to speak about in this video. In contrast to BF6, BF6 is completely underwhelming in terms of everything Battlefield 4 has to offer. I mean, if we look at this in chronological order, from Bad Company 2 to BF3 to BF4, even the older games, Battlefield 2, each game was building on something. It was innovating. Every single game, every single release had something new to offer. And every game was just getting bigger and bigger in terms of scale, environments, the sandbox, the arsenal. Fidelity was improving, graphics. Each and every single game during that era was improving, and it all felt like one cohesive art form. Okay, they each shared that same art style. You could see in their loading screens, their cover art, just the art surrounding the games, each looked the same. Okay, I've said before, I believe BF4 was the perfect sequel to BF3, okay, because it did everything right. It did exactly the same things, hit exactly the same beats BF3 did, only it improved in scale, quality and quantity. Okay, maps got larger, weapon variety got larger, you had access to camos, skins, way more than you ever did before, way more attachments, okay, way more access to vehicles, a whole list of vehicles to go through. Each were faction specific, okay. We compare this to Battlefield 6 and there is just nothing here. Okay, the game is a bare bones skeleton corpse of a game at this point. The content just isn't coming in. Live service isn't there. There is practically nothing in this game, guys. And one of those core things I've spoken about before is that Battlefield DNA. What exactly is that DNA? It's very simple, guys. You know, the clue is in the name. Battlefield, okay, I've said this before. Large open environments, huge sandbox, and that combined arms gameplay. Okay, a very simple concept right there. A BF4, it capitalized on that massively. Okay, you're talking about every single map in this game has a massive amount of space. That was one of the most obvious things during my playthrough, is that there's room to breathe. You've got flanking routes, you've got large open maps which were designed around that 64-player chaos, okay, and they were also tailored for vehicle combat as well. I'm a rush player. I really enjoy that linear style sector by sector map gameplay, and even there, urban spaced maps, urban environments where you might think combat would be condensed and players are funneled in, you still have quite a decent amount of space to navigate through these environments. And it was as if the developers understood that, hey, they need to design these maps specifically for certain vehicles in the sandbox. Okay, so for instance, attack boats, massive vehicle right there. If you're playing on a water-based environment, you need attack boats to get from point A to point B while providing cover for the infantry. Okay, you also have jet skis, hovercrafts. None of this exists inside of Battlefield 6. Okay, I've said before, like I've highlighted in great detail, the sandbox in this game is non-existent. You've only got LAVs and a few armored vehicles here and there. The maps aren't big enough for jets. There is no wide range in vehicles in this game. It's absolutely pathetic. Attack boats, massive area. They could have capitalized on that, and I've said before, they could have released a massive DLC focused on naval combat, introducing attack boats into the game. They still haven't done it. Okay, I don't think they intend to do it. They just do not have the capacity to develop the game. Okay, the water physics in this game are still jacked up. Okay, it's broken. There is no open space. There is no open environments big enough for attack boats to fit neatly into this game. Manhattan Bridge, that whole map should have been a large-scale, massive war zone. Instead, it was condensed into a narrow choke point. You know, what should have been big enough to accommodate for this naval strike, this massive boat invasion with a carrier off in the distance by the East River, and you could have had a massive boat invasion. It's now condensed into just infantry combat. It's really silly. This is not a Battlefield experience. I have no idea what they're building here. Battlefield 4, again, it shows us they've capitalized on every single vehicle in the sandbox, and they've catered the environment to play for these vehicles. Again, I've looked at Fort Linden in great detail. That map right there could have been Gulf of Oman 2.0. It's screaming for attack boats, but they have not implemented it into this game. And it's for these reasons. People are going back to previous Battlefield games. People are starting to realize that many modern games today suck, simply. Okay, they just do not have what it takes to compete. None of the games are innovating. They're actually getting worse. They're offering you less in content. And you look at the development teams behind these games, they're not exactly struggling. Okay, I've highlighted in great detail the structures behind these, the links at the top right. I won't be mentioning that here, but games are undeniably getting worse today. And you're talking about development teams with triple the budget, more time to make, more teams to create. Okay, you're talking about quadruple the amount of staff, and somehow these games aren't producing more in terms of quality and content. BF6, you're talking about 4 studios currently connected to this game. Where is the content? There is no content. None of the output matches the amount of time and resources they currently have. It's a massive overbloat. But I demand more layoffs, because there's ultimately no transparency here. They're just selling you bullshit. A BF4, a game that released over a decade ago at this point, has way more in terms of scale, quality, and content. It's not even funny. It's no wonder people are coming back to this game. And again, there is just so much in this game, from its weapons, its sandbox, its vehicles, the environment, its factions. It's got 3 factions in this game: Russia, the US, and China. Massive superpowers right there, okay? And BF6, it doesn't bring any massive factions into its combat. You're talking about Pax Armata, a fictional PMC fighting against NATO forces. That doesn't resonate with your male demographic, I'm sorry. People want to see the US military, China, Russia superpowers on these massive open battlefields with access to that huge sandbox. And again, it's just none of this exists inside of BF6. And a lot more people are just across many different franchises, guys, including COD. People are returning to older games, and it's because these games are just undeniably better in every angle. Okay, visually, okay, that's probably the only area where modern games have the edge. But that's it. Graphics can only get you so far. When you're completely missing the key philosophies that built this franchise, okay, then you've completely dropped the ball. And this has been an issue since BF5. That's pretty much where the problems began. BF5, complete lack of content, chose to focus on bullshit battles we've never heard of, okay, conveniently gave them less work to do. And again, the developers' attitudes were completely out of touch with its audience. 2042, that game was woke slop, doubled down on many of those issues we saw in BF5. Another live service slop game, focused on personality, character identity. None of that belongs in this franchise. And BF6, again, reiterating, regurgitating the same bullshit we've seen many times before, guys. Only this time, this game, BF6, might possibly be the worst Battlefield experience I've ever seen in my life. You're talking about maps which are just really narrow, condensed. They're not going anywhere. The content isn't going nowhere, okay? They can't build enough maps in time to save that game. And I've seen content coming in from Portal creators in the community who are able to build large-scale maps. It's completely ridiculous. You're talking about large-scale maps built by 17-year-olds. This shouldn't be happening. This scale, this is a question that should be tackled by the development teams responsible for building this AAA game. Instead, it's being held up by Portal content creators, and that's just unacceptable, okay? BF4, this is the ultimate Battlefield game. It's undeniable at this point. Just the sheer scale within each and every single map, the diversity here, the range of different play styles you have in each environment. Okay, you've got close quarters maps to large scale maps. You've just got such a range of different maps and environments in this game that give this game so much replay value. Siege of Shanghai, Massive urban open environment, goal mud railway, large rural terrain, wide open sightlines, breathable, fresh open environment, lots of vehicles. And then you've got many of its multiplayer maps from its premium DLC. And I've mentioned this many times before, we need to go back to premium. Unfortunately, that's not happening in BF6. This is a live service game. Premium gave you 4 maps every 3 months, and you were guaranteed a solid experience. Okay, with a unique, cohesive theme. Okay, so naval strike or close quarters combat, urban combat, you name it. Each DLC had something new to provide. Yeah, there was just so much on offer in these games, guys. Each and every single map I've played so far is basically designed with utility in mind. There is a sense of tactical strategy in every single map I've played. And I'm not being funny here, but there's this environments which you can sense that the designer was like, okay, we need to make this environment as fun as possible based off strategy and with the objective-based game modes in mind. Okay, so there's ample amount of space when you're playing in Conquest, and if you're playing on Rush, narratively, the map feels cohesive and everything just makes sense. It feels great. Every single map plays great. Almost. And there's another thing I need to mention. It's just these previous games were free from all that diversity nonsense. There is no time, there is no space for diversity here in these games. I'm sorry. And I'm not talking about diversity within different races amongst men. I'm talking about forcing in women into these combat spaces. I mean, that is ridiculous. You're not having women running these long-ass distances with all this gear, carrying this heavy-ass weaponry and all this ammunition. It's not happening. You can just drop that fantasy right there. And the fact that they've repeatedly tried to ram this down our throat every single game since BF5 is a reflection of the culture making the games, and it's turning off your mostly male demographic. I'm sorry, we don't want to play games with females running around everywhere. No, we don't want that. It's another reason why we're going back to playing these older games, because there's an undeniable focus on just masculinity. These were men's games. Men play these games. That's your male demographic right there. That's your target audience. That's who these games are appealing to, right? And the problem is when you're making games and you're trying to force in this agenda, it's not working. Okay, you're just tanking the franchise. Stop it. So yeah, it's really refreshing playing BF4, and it's free from all this noise. And you really get a sense that the game was designed around tactical, strategic gameplay. It's made by men, for men, and it's really fun. What can I say? Yeah, really addictive gameplay loop right there. And that's one of the reasons why I just cannot stand AAA gaming today. It's forcing in this same agenda, which we just hate this fucking bullshit. I'm sorry. Now again, coming back to BF4 was a really uniquely strange experience for me, because I had played this game on the Xbox 360. I maxed out in that game. I bought this game again on the Xbox One, maxed out again, unlocked every weapon, every attachment, max rank, and now I'm playing this game again, and I'm rank 54 now with virtually no attachments, no equipment. I haven't unlocked anything, and the experience ultimately is a really difficult experience. There's no aim assist when you're playing on PC, so yeah, coming back to this, I have to combine the joystick with my mouse just to play this game. And yeah, one would argue that this might not be the best experience, but again, I'm having so much fun playing this game, going back to this game. I'm willing to suffer through that just to re-experience the fun this game has to offer. It is genuinely a breath of fresh air coming back to these games. And yeah, ultimately, I believe this game is the ultimate Battlefield experience in this era, in the modern era. There's just something so fun about sniping, hitting those headshots, or getting those back rage flanks, getting those huge multi-kills. The weapon sandbox in this game is really fun as well. The weapons in this game were uniquely Battlefield weapons. Okay, I know at this point in time, the game was starting to codify itself. It was leaning into that heavy, fast-paced sort of gameplay. However, that being said, it did capitalize on many of those elements Battlefield was built on. Large open environments, combined arms gameplay, vehicle gameplay, focus. There is wide open space. You've got tons of space for vehicles, and teamwork naturally emerged through that chaos. Again, you're not finding any of this in BF6. It's impossible. The maps aren't large enough, simply. Okay, there is no wide open fields. There is no space to move diagonally in any of these maps. Okay, you're just quarantined in linear spaces, narrow choke points, you're always traveling in straight lines. Okay, so the development teams have built a corner shooter. Okay, I've said this multiple times, like, that is a fucking brain dead experience. And essentially they've built a COD game. And that's why people have fucked off to other games. Okay, they don't want to play this COD experience. And when you've built this COD game, that's it. Steep decline in player count right there. That's why people are leaving. It's not because some bullshit with EA or they're lacking time and resources. Don't believe any of the bullshit narratives that these people are spinning out. No, BF6 failed, and it was a massive, colossal failure in terms of AAA gaming. You're talking about a $500 million budget, 4 to 5 studios developing this game with over 100 plus developers in each studio. This is a massive, colossal failure. I'm sorry. How much longer are we going to keep trying to force in this culture? Okay, it's not working. They can see it doesn't work. They won't admit it doesn't work, and they're just going to keep trying to provide this slop to us, and we just have to accept it because that's what they want to do. It's horse shit. Okay, they need to go back and actually recreate these games. I think I would personally pay $80 to $100 on remakes of these games, HD remakes, upscale textures on a remake of BF3 and BF4. They don't even need to recreate these games. They just need to report these onto the newer consoles with full support, and I would heavily invest in these games. There is a massive demand for them. They don't even need to touch them, but you know what? They can't recreate these games because, again, there is no room in these games for diversity. Okay, they were built exclusively for men, about men. Okay, you look at the squads in this game: support, engineer, medic, recon. Okay, I don't see any fucking females. I'm sorry. Stop forcing us to eat this garbage. And again, going back to BF4, yes, this is the ultimate battlefield experience right here. The perfect sequel to BF3, ultimately. And yeah, it just doesn't get better than this experience right here. I'm having a ton of fun just going back to these games, re-experiencing BF4 for what it is. And each of these DLCs, the game's population is booming as it once was, but there's sure definitely a solid community still involved in these games, still keeping the game strong. And I think that's really important, is that there is still a solid community within these games. So I'd highly recommend people just go back and play these games and re-experience them for what they are. I'm not sure they're booming on console. I don't think people are playing these games on console anymore, but there still does seem to be a decent sized community on PC. Unfortunately, that is the only way to re-experience these games, guys. Unfortunately. And like I said, if you're coming from a controller player background, unfortunately, you're not going to have aim assist coming back into this if you're playing on PC. So that's the only negative right there. But yeah, ultimately, this is possibly the best Battlefield experience so far. So I do recommend you go back and play these games. That being said, a BF6 has a long way to go in terms of content. The content strategy just isn't there. People are sick of it. People have had enough. They're going back to older games. Okay, we're tired of this bullshit. It's not just the lack of content. These development teams, they don't have the capacity to develop these games. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this one, guys. I'll see you in the next one.